On today's episode, we catch up on some hobby chat and then delve into the new magic reveals for the old world, as well as share our thoughts on what we think the factions are going to look like when the old world drops early next year. Enjoy. Welcome back to the Old World Fanatics. We're only 2 days late from our normal schedule, the podcast. But yeah, hopefully we're your Warhammer podcast to quench your hobby thirst for all things the old world. And I'm your host, Gomo, with my other two co-hosts, Andrew and Josh. How is everyone on, what is it, Wednesday, I think? I'm losing track of days now. Wednesday for us, at least. Yeah.
I was thinking Monday. I'm like, oh, yeah, I've got it. I'm like, oh, no, hang on, it's changed to Tuesday. I was like, oh, hang on, no, it's Wednesday.
Wednesday.
I'm all over the shop.
Probably 1 week only. This one was my fault. But yeah, probably back to Tuesdays
I can't
next
believe
week.
I can't believe we keep doing weeklies, but anyway.
I know. It's weeklies for months on end.
We run out, yeah.
Like,
no, cool.
We're coming to Christmas and we're like, we're just going to keep doing it every week, aren't we? Straight up right through Christmas, do you think?
Well, I'm away for at least a week, so I guess we'll probably chat about that. Actually, we'll talk a little bit about that in the news in terms of upcoming episodes. But yeah, I'm not sure. We'll see how it goes, and I'm assuming once the old world drops, we'll be all psyched up as well. So who knows? Cool.
Crazy. That's the hope.
It's just us today, which is cool. We're just going to run through, like probably everyone knows about now, the magic phase. No, I shouldn't call it the magic phase because it's not the magic phase.
The magic sub-phases times 4.
Of the old world got dropped. So we want to definitely catch up on that. And then I have been talking about wanting just to chat about the whole factions and when they launch and the 9 factions. What are they? What's their plan? That's just all us just crapping on, or me. So I've got no news or anything. We just want to
wanting to talk about that subject for like 3 or 4 weeks now. I keep mentioning it on the podcast. And
I probably forgot what I originally wanted to talk about too. So anyway, we'll see what happens there. And we'll probably do a little bit of hobby, but because we didn't do that last week. But depends on how much we've got. I guess there's a few notes here from Josh. So
Josh. I've got a big fat hobby. Josh's hobbies section.
We're rebranded, eh? Awesome. Hey, well, actually, before we kick into the news, though, I just wanted to... We did do this last week, but it was right at the end, and I feel a bit slack just in case people didn't go all the way to the end, and that's shout out our first ever Patreon, which is Jared. Jared A. Maybe I'll start mentioning his last name, but I'll just say it begins with A. So thanks, Jared A., for, just small contribution every month to help, I guess, Old World Fanatics keep on kicking. So, if anyone else wants to check out our Patreon, we are on there. It's just on the link on our website. But apart from that, obviously no obligation to do so, but we're obviously appreciative if that list grows. So anyway, that's enough crapping on for that.
It just helps the hosting fees.
Exactly right.
100%.
Yeah. So news, there isn't any news as such because we're going to talk about it like we have been with the magic phase. But I did want to bring up a post that came out today. We've sort of known about it, but no one else does. We're going to jump on a combined podcast. We don't have a date yet, but between, I'm going to get it wrong here, I think it's The Old World Lives, The Herdstone and us, basically playing a podcast family feud style sort of amalgamation. So I don't know how we're going to logistically do it, but we're going to try. So, yeah. So as a result, I'll put a link in the show notes. There's a Twitter link that goes up to a survey for our listeners to fill out, not us. Now, I don't know if you guys got that. I hope you didn't go to that link yet. You haven't? No. It's all news to you guys?
No,
Good.
No, yeah.
Don't go to the link. Because it's basically, I guess, Ryan, who's running it from the Herdstone, is, I guess, crowdsourcing some of the information, like quiz stuff.
Ooh.
So if you go and look at it, you'll know the types of questions that they're going to ask. So don't look at it. Just us three. Everyone else listening to this, go to it and fill it in as much as you can.
Yeah.
Be
kind.
It should be fun.
Be kind.
I'm a bit worried. I'm a bit worried how good we'll go. But it should be fun. I'd love to get it in before Christmas and do a bit of a Christmas fun podcast thing, but it's just going to be the logistics of it. So there we go. The Old World guys are over in somewhere in Europe.
Yeah, Sweden
there.
or Poland.
Yeah, Sweden, one of them, and then the obviously the herdstone's in the States, and we're in Australia. So
wait, how many different people are going to be involved in this? Because I thought the Old World Leaders is like quite a few people, like regulars.
Yeah, and I don't know
on
if
their
everyone
podcast.
from every podcast will get on, but
Be
we'll
like 9
see.
people.
Yeah,
or
it'd be
something.
it's going to be.
Yeah.
So if you jump on their first Herdstone podcast, they did a similar thing, not with other podcasters, but there was about 6 people on it, I think. So we'll see. Well, yeah, it may be spectacularly great, or it might just go down.
Utter chaos.
Yeah. So it should be good. So
That'll
we'll
be
see how
fun.
that goes.
Yeah.
Look forward to it.
But that's it for news. So I might we'll just get onto some hobby before we jump into the main topic. And Josh has got the most. We'll throw it to Josh first.
All right. Yep. Sure.
What did you get up to the last 2 weeks?
I know, 2 weeks.
We didn't do any last week.
2 weeks of hobby.
I'm assuming you were hobbying, but
yeah, I was hobbying. I don't spend much of my time doing anything else. Yeah, what did I do? So I've continued to work on the fields and ponds. Much talked about fields and ponds. So I think last time I talked about them, I just done the texturing. So I've done the dirt layers and I've grassed them all up. I've started working on the fences for the fields as well. Where I like scratch building them using matchsticks.
oh god, how long does that take?
Not as long as it does take a while, but I don't mind spending time doing it.
He loves it.
It just has a nice look to it, and I just it gives me lots of control over the style it is and the dimensions and that kind of thing. But yeah, so I've done the vertical posts where I want them, and I've also built the hedges for some areas of the paddocks as well. And then with the ponds, I've done all the grass around the edges, and yesterday I actually did the resin pour.
Cool. Yeah.
As well for 2 out of 3 of them anyway. Which because it just takes ages.
Yeah.
Because I got to get the hardest thing with getting the resin is actually making sure you get the right level of transparency, and because I'm just dropping in the dye. I use the Woodland Cities ones. I mean, you can use acrylic paint as well, but it doesn't dissolve as well, and if you use too much of it, it actually affects the setting of the resin. So I use a little bit of black ink, but mostly I use the stuff that's actually designed to put into resin. So it doesn't affect the setting. But the pours I've done in the past have been into pre-made boards that I'm pouring 15 mil depth or 2 centimeter depth, and you don't need to go as hard with the colorization with those. Whereas with these ones, I've only got about 3 or 4 millimeters, so I've actually had to go a lot darker. Because otherwise you can just see the bottom too much, and it doesn't look
as real.
Yeah. So what a couple of the first one I did actually had to put in more dye after I'd poured it, and quickly just stir it around to try to get it a bit darker.
I was gonna say, do you pour it anywhere else to test it first? Or I guess it's not going to be accurate because you sort of need it into what you just made.
I don't really. I guess it does take a long time to set, so it gives you time. It takes hours to set, really. Yeah. So in theory, the worst case scenario, and this is what I did when I very first pour, I actually just used a pipette. I'd only poured a little bit of it, and I was like, oh, this is way too transparent. I actually just used a pipette and sucked it back up and put it back in the pot, and then just added more color. So you got flexibility in that regard. But one problem I did have was that I think the second pot actually put a bit too much resin in, and actually got a bit of overflow going down the edges in a couple of spots. Because the whole thing is I've it's just sculpted, and how high the lips are, it's I'm doing it by eye, so it's hard to have it evenly right all the way around. Just slightly overestimated.
Did it look okay or not? Or
it looks fine. It looks fine. I might have to just scrape away and regrass the bit of area because it's quite shiny.
It's not going to look like water running or anything like that.
No. It just looks strange. So I might just have to redo the grass. I'll just scrape it off with a scalpel blade and put the new grass on. But yeah, so that's going to set on a couple of days, and then I am the last step is actually to do the ripples, and I usually just use the Mod Podge and just an airbrush and just like, and it just gives a nice sort of appearance of ripple of water.
Wow.
Yeah, because at the moment it's just flat. It's just flat.
So
there's no texture to it, so that'll be the last
So
step.
have a northeasterly wind, a breeze coming through.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. So what else? So that's the terrain that I've been doing, and then I did the Devoted Standard Bearer, and I've semi-freehanded it, where I've actually got it's a sort of a guided freehand, I guess is how I describe it, where I've actually got I made an outline of the Slannesh icon, printed it on transfer, stuck the transfer on the banner, and then actually filled it in and painted around it so that you can't actually see the original transfer anymore. Like I just use it as an outline to guide my freehand.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
that's a good idea. Yeah, you actually, obviously you leave the transfer on there, but you can't see it.
You can't see the transfer at all.
Because that's half the struggle with freehand is the actual structure. Once you've got it there, because it's similar. I mean, it's flat, but it's similar painting. You can usually do a decent job of the rest of it. It's just getting that like dimensions. If you're not good at drawing and stuff, it's pretty easy to make something look really goofy.
Yeah.
Was that your idea, Josh, or did you see somebody do that? Or
no, I just came up with it.
That's really good.
Anyone else do it?
Awesome. That's an awesome idea.
Those guys.
You just print that out of a printer, like you just got a transfer thing.
Oh yeah, I bought like a little pack of 5 sheets of the. You got to get either the laser or the inkjet transfer paper, depending on the printer you have. And then you just got to find the right icon, or you usually use Photoshop to change it so it's a hollow icon.
Get the right size. Make sure it's
you just got to edit it a little bit, and then you usually put it in Word and try to work out the size of it, and maybe I'll print off like 3 or 4 of them marginally different size, so that when I've got it printed off, I can just stick it up to the banner and go, I'll use this one because this one looks like it's about the right size. And it's just like a black outline, and then you can just fill it in. Yeah,
that's good. I'm gonna think about that.
That's
that's a tip. That's worth listening to. People have just got gold then.
Giving it away.
Special Josh's technique.
So do you have to use like an A4 sheet basically just to get a single transfer out?
Pretty much.
But what
I don't. Oh, okay. So I think the pack of 5 was like, I can't remember now. I think it was $10 and then postage, or $15 something. But the thing is, you don't just use one sheet and then print one transfer and then throw it away. What I do is, I cut off the transfer I've used, and then my printer doesn't let me just feed it back in again if it's not an A4 piece of paper. So I actually work really hard to preserve it. So I actually paste the transfer sheet on another piece of A4, just with some PVA glue. And it just works. The printer just doesn't mind that. It doesn't complain. As long as it's got the shape of an A4, I can just keep using the same sheet. Nice. So I've printed off quite a few transfers, and I'm only halfway through the first sheet I have. So it's economic.
That's awesome.
So where was I? So I'm just going to keep going through my hobby gold apparently. So I polished off the rest of the slow grow for the month. So I've done the Mountain Demonettes. I started working a bit on the Cold One Knights, and I'm having a little bit of trouble getting the right color for the cold ones. I reckon the first one I just did like a quite bold purple, and it just with the rest of the color scheme of the Knight, which is like pinkish and a little bit of purpliness and teal and gold and silver. Having a strong purple, the cold one, I think it just confuses things.
Is everything too busy? Or
too busy. Too busy. So I'm thinking of going maybe down a sort of a bluish tealish road, I think, or a dark blue type thing.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was thinking, could you go like some real, like white, like a bloody what's it called? What's it called when they when you get a white animal? Albino cold ones. I just let them stick out. The other ones,
big red laser eyes.
Yeah,
that's not the worst idea. If I had the right shade,
it
would look hilarious.
Although, what base do you have again? You got pretty snowy.
Yeah, it's a snow
Base,
base with black edges and stuff.
Yeah, might look a bit washed out.
Oh,
But you're thinking like
actually.
midnight
No,
blue
black
type, sort of
I'm
like almost
thinking-
black. Is that what you mean? Like
Yeah,
a-
blackish, bluish, maybe a little bit of red in there. And then maybe I'm actually going to like along the top parts of the scales, make it have like purplish highlights or something, have like a dual
Oh, yeah.
color type thing going on. That's what I'm thinking about maybe doing. But yeah, when I have time, I'll work on that a bit more.
yeah, I'll throw them up so we can have a look.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're very much work in progress at the moment. And then I also found a little illusion spell marker, which is like a little cloud that I've actually like a 3D print of it. So I actually stuck it on the 3D printed base I have and printed that off as like a marker for the Chilean delusions for the spell where they have to go towards a marker. So I've got I painted the cloud like pink so it fits with the sorceress and stuff. Sort of that scheme I've got going on. So yeah, I've got a little spell marker for that fits the theme. And the other thing I've been doing for the slow grow is actually, I remember when on the first session, only a few people had line of sight markers.
Yeah.
But some people weren't even aware of the rule line of sight. So I've actually just printed off. I printed over a few rounds. I printed off quite a few.
I was thinking around that for CanCon in terms of getting, because I've been talking to some sponsors for some things. We should have a boxed game to give away as well, because we've hit 60, haven't we? Or get close to it.
I think we're close. I think last time I heard it was 56, but I don't know.
Yeah, if we're over 50, one of these people give us a box game to give out. So they're just sorting that out and sending it to me. So I don't know how big that is, but it's like not just a box. I think it's a boxed game that we raffle off. Yeah, as long as we raffle it off to a charity. Like what? I don't know. It might be like, I don't know. It's not like a board game. It'll be a war game, but I think it's a substantial giveaway, hopefully. Nice. But we just have to raffle it.
Oh, okay.
Type thing. So yeah, so that'd be pretty cool.
Okay, that sounds really cool.
So we'll have to come up with a charity. Sorry, that's not my hobby time. You just reminded me when you said the line of sight thing. I thought, you know how heaps of times you go to a tournament and they have them marked on there or whatever. Like we got some with Battle of the Vines. Sometimes sponsors do them. I was wondering if we should do something for CanCon, and then I thought, Josh can print them. But
yeah, well, I have literally done that. I actually put Black Arrow Slow Grow engraved into the line of sight marker. So that's literally what you're describing.
Or a dice.
Maybe we can do some old world fanatic ones.
Yeah. Single dice.
Yeah. Old world fanatic ones too.
Yeah.
You could have like that little icon we have as the 6 on the dice.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Okay.
Cool. What is this next point that you're wrote in our show notes?
I enjoyed putting this in the show notes. Echidnas just in the whole world, just to really confuse you guys. You were like, what the hell is this?
So it's not real.
Oh no, it is real. I just enjoyed doing it very vaguely. So you were like, what the hell are we talking about? What I found out is that this is actually referring back to, this is going to really confuse you. I'm talking about the Fiend of Slannesh right now.
Right.
So echidnas, their hind legs point backwards. I discovered this recently.
Is that a marsupial as well? It is, isn't it?
It's a monotreme.
Oh, monotreme. Yeah, okay. Yeah, man. Our animals are just weird, aren't they? They're so isolated. They've just totally evolved into different animals that we've got here.
So ridiculous. Yeah. So my question really is, do you think it's just fiends of Slannesh that are monotremes, or is it all chaos spawns?
I don't know enough about animals or Slannesh to answer that.
Yeah.
So.
When did you find that out? Is that something you just recently found out, or you just sparked your interest and your?
Yeah, I just happened to watching a video of echidnas walking around,
and then you're like, "That's how I put
legs are backwards."
Like the Slannesh feeds.
Yeah, I looked up the anatomy and it's right.
You know what you need to do? Who sculpted the first one? I wonder. I'll have to go back and look at that and find them. Facebook message them, because they're all on Facebook, these old guys like us, and ask them, did you base this off the echidna?
Totally. Well, it's got a big long tongue as well, like it.
Yeah.
There's some similarities there.
Yeah.
Anteater.
Yeah.
Right,
makes sense now, though.
It's all coming together.
Yeah. And then finally, this is a big long list I got, man. 2 weeks. I have to unload. Finally, I had some really sad thing happen where my Dremels, I have this old Dremel stylus, so it got discontinued years ago. I bought it like 2015, and I think it got discontinued a year later. It's like it's a particular Dremel that's quite small, and it's got like a pistol grip sort of shape to it, whereas the normal Dremels, it's just a lot bigger long one. And I really loved that design. And I think it was actually really quite popular. I think a lot of people were sad when they discontinued it. But it's been working for me so many years, and now finally the charger actually stopped working. So the actual Dremel is okay, but I can't charge it. I'm looking online to see if I can get a new charger. There's 2 chargers on eBay for like $130, and they're all in America. So they're 110 voltage. So, I can't use them because you need 240 volts here. So there's no point in me buying those chargers because they won't work.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes sometimes you can do that. It's a lot hard to go the other way. But sometimes you can do that and it's slower.
Do you think?
Yeah. I've got a voltage converter. You can buy them.
You can do that. You can buy them.
They're like another $100.
But did you check the chart? The big thing to check is the amperage.
And
you
just.
I haven't checked the amperage.
Crafty, get a qualified electrician to rewire it for you. Don't do it yourself, boys and girls, because I get in trouble for giving dodgy advice, endangering people's safety. But
Isn't that what the trip circuit things in your house are for anyway? To save you?
Exactly. Yeah.
Fuse box. Save your own stupidity. It's like a bike helmet. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to think about it. It's a significant investment. Like it's buying a new charger. If I was to buy a new charger rather than try to repair the current one, which I also have no skill in whatsoever, I'd be spending more money than I spent on the original Dremel.
Yeah. And you could just get used to a different one or something. But
just be. I'd look at actually just upgrading it to something. Something to I don't know, a more modern one, I guess. But I just liked that particular one because it was small and easy to use and very tactile.
Yeah, well, pistol. So it's like okay, that's interesting. Yeah, because it's not more like a pen. It's actually like you're holding it.
More like a backwards pistol, I guess, is how I describe it. Right. So it's sort of like a pen, but you've got like a bar that goes down the bottom as well, so you can rest your whole palm against it. So it gives you a lot of dexterity.
Right.
But they got rid of it, which is sad.
Anyway, hopefully, you'll sort that out. Obviously, you use it a fair bit then.
Yeah, I use it all the time. Just grinding down. If I print off movement trays, I'll use it to grind down the edges from the printer. For making terrain, I use it all the time for sanding stuff or drilling holes or. I probably don't use it much on miniatures themselves. But all the peripheral stuff, especially terrain, I find it's really important for me to have that technology.
See, I was looking into a Dremel for really bad mold lines, especially on resin stuff, and because I got a Dremel knockoff, and everybody basically was like, "Oh, don't do it because it just destroys your miniatures." Whereas for me, I thought it would be.
I thought I saw someone on
sort of
Instagram
tool.
doing it the other day with like
if you didn't go too crazy.
Something. Yeah.
I think it's just the even the lower setting, the rotation speed might just be a bit easy to overdo it slightly. I think you could do it. You just have to be careful about how much force you apply and how long you apply the sander to that area. I've never used Dremel for that purpose. I just feel like you get a lot more control just doing it by hand.
I find those jeweler's files, but sometimes they just make a bit of a scratchy sort of mess sometimes, even if you do go a bit like if it's a nice smooth surface, sometimes you might nick it or something and it just I don't know.
Files can be a problem. I agree. Usually I just use the back of the scalpel blade and
that's what I use. I just scalpel probably, and then if they're too annoying to get to, I just leave them. Easy like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I mean, it depends where it is, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, ample supply of scalpel blades from work, which helps.
Yeah.
Use it for one cast straight.
Yeah.
Rinse it.
Rinse
All right,
it.
this could be
Good
good.
to go. Yeah.
Take it home.
Sure, you want to nick yourself with
love
the bloody surgical blade, but would you?
Yeah, I actually do
Really?
blunt them. I like just
Yeah,
whack them
Oh,
against
yeah.
something,
No,
a
the
surface,
sharp,
so that because
yeah.
otherwise, they were just way too sharp to be safely used. And I have certainly cut myself more than once.
Yeah.
Especially when I put a new one on and I forget that it's not blunt like the old one, and I'm like,
Yeah.
crap! I've got this huge cut on my arm.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
You know it's a deep one when you cut yourself and it just doesn't bleed for a bit, and then you're just like, oh no.
Yeah.
Then you see it coming.
Yeah. They're
Anyway.
designed to cut into tissue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely the hobby vet podcast so far.
Yes, it
today.
is.
Yeah.
Castration and castration of models.
Monotremes.
I like how it
Monotremes.
reminded how like that's where my mind went first of all surgeries I could have named.
Yeah.
That'll be what? 70% of all surgeries? I'm guessing.
Mate, something like that. Yeah, that's
something like that.
very much a common one. Yeah. Anyway, it's enough about my hobby, guys. Who else would like to chime
cutting
in?
off balls or?
He is in the Slannesh.
That's not a hobby. You get paid to do that.
It's a paid hobby.
Do you want to go, Andrew, or you want me to go?
Or? No, yeah, I can go. So I actually did something decent. Well, kind of. So I'm on the back end of my cull, which is good. I'm only down to 20 lots out of the original 100. And I've just been sorting my, I'd call it it's a shed, but it's kind of like a large shed. So it's like a 20 square meter. Call it a workshop. So I've been going through sorting some stuff out, and I found a dwarf dragon slayer that I was meaning to paint. And I've done most of my dwarves. It was prime black, so I actually threw a bit of white primer on, just doing a bit of that.
A little bit.
Yeah. I've actually done that before for my dragon slayers, and it made it so much easier. So I painted him up. Just pretty. I spent a bit of time on him, not too much. They're actually quite easy because I find dragon slayers, there's not a lot to them. But yeah, I've got a very bright. Well, it's bright anyway, but I've gone for a bit of an extra bright orange with the yellowy sort of highlights.
Yeah.
So
just on the beard and stuff, like the
the beard and the hair.
Yeah.
Like the Troll Slayer orange sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's come up really good because I've got a I don't know if you guys have much of them, but I really like just going and they're not super opaque or anything. You get the like the fluoro edition. I think Vallejo does them.
I haven't used them, but I've heard about them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're really because it doesn't go on super thick. It just kind of it's almost like a bit of a not quite a wash, but like a I don't know. It's a little bit watery at the same time. So yeah, but it's really good. It just gives it a bit more pop. And I found that going from what I did last time with my big bunch of troll slayers that I've got, going from a black primer to Zenithal was saved me so much
and that's
time.
not contrast paints. That's just normal paints.
Yeah, just normal paints. Yeah. Because even layer paints over black sometimes, like when you get like a bright color, it just you just layer and layer and layer, and it's just
Yeah. I've never primed with just black. Even when I first started painting, it was white primer only. And I think that's made me into like a painter that really loves bright colors. And then and I hate it even if I do Zenithal primer and there's a bit I haven't got enough white in the Zenithal.
Yeah.
I hate it because it's just like I can't get it bright enough. I don't. It really
That's funny
frustrates
because I'm
me.
like the reverse, and so I've always steered clear of white undercoat because the ones I've tried, I did used to do it white when I was a kid, but I didn't know what I was doing. But then when I
still
started,
do.
then when I started the Empire, that was all black, and it's only lately with the contrast paints that I've been doing zenithal. Like, it freaked me out when it got too white because I was like, oh no, I don't know how to. I don't know. I felt like I don't know how to join the colors together. Whereas like the black, you can always leave a bit. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's always a gap. Like even if there's not, like, there's defined lines. But as a result, Josh, you're probably right. Like I reckon my stuff tends to be more dull, like grimy stuff, and a lot of wash stuff. And whereas it's not, I struggle with trying to make it pop. Whereas now with contrast, if I gone more zenithal, I know what you mean. Like I actually go probably, I wouldn't even call it a zenithal because I'm not really caring too much about making sure it's only coming from one light source. I'm more around just having that depth, I guess, on the whole model. I don't care. But
for sure.
So
it's just frustrating because you have to work so hard, as you say, Andrew. So many layers to get a nice, clean, bright color. Which just creates so much extra work in that regard. I agree about having the depth and the crevices when the dark and that type of thing. But I've always just been like, I'll paint something on quite a bright surface, and then I'll be like, this base coat doesn't look very good, and then I'll just put a wash on, and it'll just give all the depth you need, and it'll just be like night and day. Like, yes.
Yeah, no,
liquid,
totally.
Liquid
like I absolutely agree with that because I've done that more and more now as I've even with the contrast stuff. It's like that sometimes. You're obviously using a fairly light, obviously close to white sometimes to get it working. But as a result, I'm back in that. Occasionally I'll get in that state where I'm like, okay, that belt line to that skin is a bit. It's not as good as I want, but I know that I'll just come agrax around it anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Like even recently, like I don't know if you remember, but when I put up photos of my slow grow, the first lot of like witch elves and stuff, I actually didn't prime them white enough. It actually frustrated me a lot because a lot of the skin on the witch elves, I was really having to work really hard to get the pale flesh come up, where a lot of it was on dark surfaces. And it was like it actually meant painting it took a lot longer. Same with the mountain demonettes. Whereas the cold ones that I did, I actually have done a much whiter prime for those, and it's a lot less irritating.
The other thing too, I guess, sorry, this is your hobby time, Andrew, but
taken over.
It's probably the Empire was black. My orcs and demons and all the other ones, I moved away from just black primer to whatever primer. Like orcs, I've got a really good green spray, so I use that. And then I use a lot of Xandri dust color spray, even for elves and stuff, because it's not white, so I don't go into that weird. Oh, I can't paint on this, but it's light enough that when I put a Xenolo over the top, it's pretty good, but it's not dark. So
it's always confused me priming something entirely in one particular color, because then it's like, how is that going to affect your layers for the other non-green colors? Like talking about like an orc and stuff.
That was.
I've never done it
though.
because
There
it just
wasn't
seems
much.
strange.
There wasn't much.
Just a loincloth and
it's pretty much a loincloth.
True.
So that's pretty.
Anyway, that's enough of a tangent. I feel like
I have to put that as a whole section, the Zenithal section.
Zenithal. Nah, that's all I had. But Colin, what did you get up to? Gomo, sorry.
I'm probably not being old world enough, but I am trying to get through my orcs still. So I got 11 Gretchen done. They're actually quite fun to paint because they're so little. And then with contrast paints, just smash them out, which was fun. But that unit comes with like 10 Gretchen and this other sort of orc, a runt herder or something. So got him done up, and then I built the. I don't know if you guys probably don't know because it's 40k, but like the beast snaggers, which are like the newer orcs that came out last, I think, edition. They're sort of like, they're not savage orc, but they're like beastie. They're like bigger orcs that they're sort of they're core, but they're like better. It's the same problem you get in the old fantasy where no one took boys because the savages were better. It's a little bit like that. Like these beast snaggers are better
these
than
40k?
boys. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so got them done up and just working through them really. So I want to keep that army going because I bought it and I'm like, well, not an army, but I bought a bunch of 40k stuff. So I'm like, don't know if I ever play it, but they're fun to paint while I'm waiting for the old world.
Have you painted up any heresy as well?
Nah, not since that one dude that I did.
Okay.
Yeah. I do have stuff though. Like I bought a bunch of stuff on that. Our club had like a buy sell swap day last month, so I went to that. But I didn't buy it from that, but I'd organised someone who was selling stuff cheap, so I grabbed some stuff. But the problem there is that's why I'm reading some heresy books and stuff. I don't want to commit to. I think I'm doing Sons of Horus, but I'm like, I might read a little bit more before I start throwing, painting a crap ton of it. And none of this is urgent. I'm just like, just on the side while I'm waiting to know what I'm going to do in the old world.
So you're going to let the fluff guide you?
Yeah,
possibly?
maybe. Yeah, maybe.
So
it's probably going to be Sons of Horus or like Space Wolves, but I just, I need to read a bit. So I'm reading like one of the Space Wolf ones now just to see what I
feel like the fluff is a solid way of guiding which faction you follow for sure.
And I think with Horus Heresy, definitely. Like 40k probably doesn't matter as much. Like the thing I like about the orcs, to be honest, I almost like orcs in 40k better than fantasy. Like in the sense that I like I like the orcs idea of the they just shit works because they believe it's going to work. Like that's what I like. That's what this whole thing is. Like they just put shit together and they will it to work and it just works. But that's not fantasy. It's a bit different. Like fantasy orcs are a bit different. I think I probably like the Tomb King stuff better in fantasy, but we'll see. I don't know. We'll see what Old World brings. But yeah, I did pull out. I'm going to try get 5 chariots done because there's a list that at some point, Andrew, we're going to have to get small games in.
Yeah.
There's a list that has 10 chariots and I got 5 done.
Ooh.
So
10 chariots.
Yeah.
Sick.
But I'm not convinced won't take the other one that I had that I did play already with Andrew. So I want to play that a bit more on my list.
Yeah.
Because I think it'd be fun with that too. Because I had that magic item in that other one with the Tomb Guard where it was like you get that you can wheel, you can reform at the beginning of your movement phase before declaring charges. I think that'd be cool. Just like
that is
play around with that. Just turn charged.
Can that go on anything? Or is it just Tomb Guard?
No, it can only be on foot troops, so you can't put it on chariot.
That would have been gold.
I know.
Absolute gold.
Yeah. So I was wondering if you could, team that up with the chariot, like, I don't know. But anyway. They're slow. That's the problem. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah. So I'll keep plugging away at, but basically just painting Tomb Kings and 40k orcs unless I work out what I'm going to do with Horus Heresy. But, like reality is by the time I get substantially through any of this, it's going to be Old World landing, and then I'll know what I want to do potentially.
Yeah.
Well, like I'll be on Tomb Kings for sure, see where they're at and rebasing and whatever, that sort of stuff. So
you got to paint up a big bone dragon.
Yeah, that's right. I'll have to get that
big
done.
Crocodile.
We've got to get my
or 2.
Or 2.
Necropolis Knights done. I've got like the well, and then the other thing that happened, the Pharaoh's Legacy dropped, which is that new whole range of Tomb King looking things.
Yeah.
So I will talk to you, Josh. I haven't seen yet which ones. I mean, reality is the ones I will probably want to get are the ones I don't have, things like the Carrion and stuff, but I'm not going to use them at the moment. So I might just, I don't know. I actually might get some scenery pieces printed out of that thing first because I might build a board for CanCon that's all desert.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I printed off those obelisks, but I haven't got around to posting them to you. But then I
leave it. Yeah.
Might as well just wait till.
Well, there's some cool, like little, not obelisks. Well, there is obelisks, but there's like little different scenery things. I want to build a table because I'll bring one table with the desert mat. And I was thinking for forests, like there's ones with like all little pillars and just do exactly what I've done with the forest, that you can pick the forests off, but they're actually pillars.
Yeah.
Like, do you reckon that'd be confusing as long as people know what it is?
You
know what I mean? Like, so it looks like
already.
So it looks like on the board, it's not trees. The forest is actually just these little pillars and stuff.
Like the
but
stumps.
They're actually,
yeah.
And they're broken ruins, but they're actually a forest. So you play it as a forest. You move them when you go in there. But it looks like a ruin, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think that would be confusing. I'd be confused.
What happens if it's printed on the same size base as the forest base and everything? And it's
I'd still look at it and be like, this looks like a ruins.
I
don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
I'd almost think like if you did it something like you had the 2D terrain that came out with Ninth Age, where it looks like a tree canopy from the top,
Yeah.
and then you just put these stumps on, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah,
So you
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
making a 3D effect, and you'd have the 2D base that looks like a forest. Because those 2D bases, you don't want to just play with just 2D.
No, they look crap. Yeah,
It
yeah.
kind of like having like a 2D printout of a house, but then you
Yeah.
actually have a 3D house on it, but then you can pull it off if you needed to for whatever reason.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll have a look. I was looking at the different things, going, oh, they sort of look tree-like if you like do it like this and plunk it around. And,
Yeah, I have to have a look at. I have
Yeah.
to look at what you're talking about because I'm just picturing rubble, and maybe I'm just
No, it's
picturing
not
it
rubble.
wrong.
It's literally just pillars. They're columns, and they're in little groups of 3s and 2s. And you're like, I was thinking, well, if you put like a group of 3 and a group of 2 on a ball on a forest-sized base, like I've done with my forests, obviously you'd have ruins and you probably have impassables like those, like the obelisks and stuff separate as well. So it's obviously 3, with hills, it's a 3 or 4 different things on the table, and you sort of just, I don't know, just leave a marker on there that says it's forest.
I mean, you don't have to have a forest on each table.
No, you don't. But I mean, I'm just wondering, like, just to make it sort of the standard, a couple of hills, couple of forests, couple of ruins, or an impassable. Bang, I don't know.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to have forest.
Yeah, no, true.
In my guidelines, it's 0 to 2, I think, forests.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Just
cool.
A total of 6 to 8 stuff.
Yeah, that's what I've been plonking along with. The other thing I did today was I went and bought a slightly bigger brush. I was just quickly like, what do you guys paint with?
Micro, pretty small.
Raphael brushes usually.
Oh, I forgot about that old brand. That's a brand that's been around for ages. What size though? Or do you mix and match?
Oh, is it a 1 I usually use?
I do like 00, I think.
So I've gone like big because
I usually go 1s.
Yeah,
I think you can probably do 2s. I think, but I was told like when I went to the class a few years ago, Meg Maples. She was like, "Yeah, you got to use 2 or 3s."
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's someone on Instagram said this. Like the bigger the better the painter, and I shouldn't say that, but they tend to just use 2 types, maybe a 3, and then they might use a real small one for like eyes and stuff like that. That's pretty much it.
She was doing eyes with 1s. Like,
yeah,
it was crazy.
I mean,
she was painting irises, and she was still doing the 1s. And I was like,
a good enough brush with a tip.
She's like, just matter what the tip is. It doesn't matter what size the brush is. And I was like,
that's right.
Wow.
The tips are all the same. It's actually how much. Well, I don't know the physics of it, but whatever the body part of the that holds more paint. And I guess I've been using. I mean, I did most of my Empire and all that on number 1 Windsor Newtons. Which are quite, they're not small, but they're not big. They're just, I think they're a pretty good size.
They're nice enough, yeah.
But they are quite thin. They don't hold a heap of paint, I found, especially once I was playing around with contrast paints. Yeah. And they're obviously expensive. And then I found this one at like the local hobby store, which was like, it's still a, Kolinsky Sable or whatever, but it was like a sort of a cheaper slightly brand. And their number 2 was bigger than the Windsor 1, but not as big as the Windsor's number 2. And I've been using that, and they're like $30. I've got 2 of them because I eventually, you use it, and then I was like, I might get another one. It's only $30. Might as well have a brand new one again. But I've been going, how big? This is a number 2. I wonder if they have a number 3, like a bigger one. And they just don't make it. I was like, and then I went to pass a different art shop today, and I was like, how big's the Windsor Newton 2 or 3? And the 3's huge and the 2's big too. And I was like, I'll just buy it. So I've got a bigger brush now. I'm going to try it with the contrast paints and everything else, and just see how it goes. Because I just wasn't sure. Just so what you guys were using, but anyway, that's my hobby.
Yeah, quite a few brushes. Because I've got a Windsor as well. I think I got a Rosemary and Crow one sitting around. And like 5 or 6 Raphaels at least, maybe similar. I've got lots.
I've got.
Spent a lot of money on brushes.
I know. Yeah.
I find the smaller brush. The problem is that probably I should go up to a bigger brush because I tend to try and load up more paint, and that obviously screws your brush. Your brush up. And I've got the brush wash stuff like the detergent, and I do all that. But once you got paint up, you
can use
you're pretty...
isopropyl to clean it too, which I found.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
Is that okay
no, you're
for
right.
the sable, the isopropyl? Like, how does the brush go after you used it? Wouldn't it like strip out all the oils?
The glue in the thing? In the what?
Well, like, wouldn't it affect the actual fibers if you use?
I don't think if it's quick out. Yeah, well, the guy who does the, those dry brush ones I bought. That guy, I don't know those.
Yeah.
The dudes from, I can't remember what's called.
Was it Artis Opus?
Yeah. He's on his one. He talks about it. Cleaning them quickly with that, and then obviously they've got a brush soap, and they've got this other paint activator thing that you use to just basically activate the paint to get it out. And it cleans it up really good. Yeah, you don't leave it on there by any means.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
because for me, I just feel like it's natural hair, and it's like I probably wouldn't wash my own hair with isopropyl alcohol.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, because it would have a similar effect.
Yeah. I think it's quick. I think, I mean, you probably don't have to do it every time. You wouldn't do it every time either. It's just when you want to like give them, spring.
Yeah, fair enough. And you just briefly, like you just sort of like dip it in.
Oh no, well I've got a spray one, so I literally just sprayed a tissue and then sort of just like,
and then just wipe it off immediately.
And you could see stuff come out that you couldn't actually see on the brush, which is cool.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But yeah, Andrew, I'd if I was, because the biggest thing is just how much more paint the thing can hold. Yeah, it's just like it can just paint longer.
I think I'm from dwarves; they were very small.
Oh
so
yeah.
I feel like I haven't transitioned well. It's like I started doing what I did, and then I use that as my basic. Even though now models are a lot bigger, scales are bigger.
Well, no, that's true. I reckon that's what it is. The models are getting bigger, so then you're like, I can't. It's taking me forever to paint this thing.
With they do. With this little brush. Tiny bloody. Yeah. But anyway,
that's lots of hobby there.
Yeah.
Well, let's get on to our topic. Yeah, the main one, which is the magic phase. Keep calling it the magic phase.
Magic subphases.
Subphases in every phase. Well, let's who wants to kick it off.
I think I kicked it off last time.
Yeah, I guess I can do it. So yes, the next edition of the Old World Animac. How magic brings a sparkle to the battlefield.
Ooh.
Such ridiculous title. So it just goes through a little bit about how it's probably the biggest break from the previous editions because there's actually no set magic phase as such in the game. And then it actually goes in to talk about colleges of magic and how there are, this is actually set before those were established. Because that was a bit of a question mark, I think, before they'd actually put this article out. Was like, is the College of Magic going to be part of it or
mentioned
not?
it, did they? It's just everyone else worked it out.
Yeah. So, but they still have 8 laws though. So it's finally like, they say there's no battle magic, but there's still that basic structure of 8 core laws in the rule book. But it's just quite a lot more diversified in an interesting way. So you've got battle magic, which I guess encompasses sort of the colleges of magic before it became that. And I imagine most human factions will have access to battle magic, I would think. And then there's dark magic, demonology, elementalism, high magic, illusion, necromancy, and war magic. And they're all in the core book, Some of those are very army specific, especially the WAR.
Especially WAR. Yeah. So the interesting thing there is we know there's what's it called? The Tomb King one. What's that one called? The I should know, the Law of Nehekara, because that was listed a few almanacs ago, and it's in there. So I guess what I'm wondering is, is this telling us we're definitely getting like the core book plus, campaign type book that has more fleshed out Tomb Kings and Bretonians, and they're going to have different laws? Because further down, which we'll get to, is that prophetess has law of the lady as a special rule on there as well. So I don't know what that means specifically.
True. Yeah, true. But
because out of the box, and this gets into the faction discussion, out of the out of the box or whatever. Once it kicks off, there's no, what's the orcs going to use? What's the vampires going to use that aren't even a core faction? So I wonder if that's hinting to, they've put everything they need in the main rule book, but some of them are faction specific, but they have to put them there because they don't have there's nowhere else to put them. I guess they could put them in the indexes if that's the thing. Yeah, I don't know.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, which is weird. Like, obviously, necromancy, you think, like, well, who's going to have necromancy? Like, obviously.
You could argue Tomb Kings could as well,
yeah.
but we know, we saw the Law of Nehekara in the other things. I'm assuming they don't, and they use that, but I don't know.
Yeah. So, I think, on the magic there, it's sort of like maybe a lot of these will be specific for the PDF styles.
That's a good point. Yeah, like even dark magic might apply to the dark elves, and demonology's in there as well.
Yeah,
chaos type stuff.
3rd edition has demonology, elementalism, illusion. I think dark. It's got some of these ones in there. Actually, that's funny. I actually have the 3rd edition book behind me. I should have got it. I just remember demonology being in there. I don't know if it was full laws. I just can't remember what it was, but some of that wording when I saw it went, that's very 3rd edition-y. So interesting.
Yeah. And then last sentence of that paragraph, they talk about how most mages will have access to at least 2 of laws. And you choose one law at the start of each battle. Now, I feel like that is more just a weird way of saying you choose your law. Because the way I read that first was like, you select, you've got like a couple of laws, and then before each battle, you choose which law you're going to.
Well, I thought it was that. Because isn't that some of the rules? Isn't even 6 like that?
Yeah. For a tournament scene, I don't know how they're going to do that.
Yeah, I don't think it'll wash out. Yeah, once you get to more structured play, I think it's just how they've phrased it, but I don't think it's necessarily they mean it like that.
They wouldn't be writing it for tournaments as such in that regard, are they?
No.
But isn't that true though? Isn't some of the editions built that way, or are they all? I can't remember.
I think so. Yeah. I think they were. But I think it's just being a convention that you nominate the law in your army list.
Yeah.
So each law has 7 spells. The first one being the signature spell that you always get, and then you get additional spells on top of that depending on your wizard level. And you still got wizard levels 1 up to 4. And I assume it doesn't really specify, but you get 4 spells if you're level 4 and 1 if you're level 1. Which is pretty typical. Although it's interesting that you don't get. There's no it doesn't talk about getting. You can select number 1 spell, like you just get your signature spell and then. 6.
Do you think that means you get like 2 if you're level 1? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm reading.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So your signature spell, then you roll. On the rest of the law for whatever other spells you get. Yeah, I agree.
Just jumping back quickly. I just because it was literally behind me, my 3rd edition book. They had 5 laws: battle magic, illusionist, demonic, elemental, and necromantic, which is pretty funny. And they have hammerhand in there. It's pretty funny. Yeah, they must have just gone back and grabbed some of these, because I think some of the history in this book was a bit older, if you know what I mean. So maybe I don't know. Maybe there's
in terms of the time frame.
Even the law, like I think it was pre some of the stuff a little bit, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering. Yeah, that's cool. Sorry, but keep going.
Yeah, okay. So, and then we've got spell categories. So this is a pretty new thing as well, actually, that they've categorized them. And I guess it then pertains to which phase you cast them in. So you've got enchantments and hexes that are cast in the strategy phase. You've got conveyance spells that are cast in movement phase, magic missiles and vortexes that are in the shooting phase, and assailment spells that are in the combat phase. Now, each spell also has a casting value, and then you actually roll it, 2d6 as we thought, plus the full level of the caster.
Yeah.
So it's not half or anything like that. It's not like +1 if you're level, if you're hero level, +2 if you're lord. It's just the caster level, which is Yeah, very interesting. Because that means if you got a lower level of 4 and you're casting something relatively high, like a 9+, you're very likely to get that because you only need a 5 on the dice.
Yeah.
And especially those other spells we saw where they're all 7s and 8s. Lord levels are probably going to be potentially pretty good, I guess. Which I guess there's some other ways to counteract that, because the more wizards, as we'll get to, the more wizards, the more range you have, because the spells are a lot smaller. So you know what I mean. So if you only got one wizard, but the ranges are smaller, and your dispel, which we'll get to, your dispel or distance is smaller.
It's just after the miscasting, so I might just go through that. So it's 24 inches if you're Lord level, and 18 inches in terms of dispelling. This is 18-inch range for the your hero level casters, and the dispel's the same as the casting in that you add your level to the 2d6.
So you only.
And if you
do you? I think you only had
casting
one. Oh no, you do. Sorry, yeah. Sorry, I'm thinking of something else. Yep.
I don't know if this is just, again, syntax, but they say if you beat the casting roll. So does that mean you have to roll higher to dispel?
Well, that's why I read it as, but I mean,
I
is
would
it just
think
how they've written it?
Yeah.
It seems very easy to dispel otherwise, if you're in range. Like,
yeah, true. If you're adding your whole thing and not just half your level.
Yeah. Depends if you're a Lord or not.
Well, yeah.
But interestingly, you can miscast on the dispel
on
as
the dispel.
Well.
Yeah. Which is weird. Surely there's a different miscast table, because it doesn't make any sense, this one, as much if you're dispelling.
Oh, like, for the for your higher rolls.
Yeah, for the higher rolls.
Plus. Yeah.
It's a bit weird. Unless this is not a specific, I don't know, this is the thing. I've always assumed these snapshots of the rules are straight out of the book, but maybe they're not. You know, maybe they're slightly...
I've always assumed that that's the case as well. Yeah, that's a good point. Because it might just, I mean, it is slightly like, it's a new thing to be miscasting on your dispel, so maybe they're just going to be like,
but like, you could easily see how, like, would I read that to say, well, I can't cast anything, so therefore if you miscast the dispel, you can't dispel anything in that turn. Like, you know, like, would you do that? Like,
but it doesn't specifically say. Yeah, I think that's why I'm going to wait to see what the rule book says when it comes out. We're going to wait and see a little bit. Because the miscast table. Let's go through that. Again, quite different from any previous edition in ways that I feel like are good and bad. So 2 to 4 is Dimensional Cascade, where you get a 5-inch blast template over the wizard, and every model underneath the template has a strength 10 hit with an AP of -4.
Yeah, well, it's interesting how they write
risks.
that, though.
Yeah.
It says underneath the template, risks being hit and suffering a single strength 10 hit. Is that just the language? Because if you don't roll the strength 10, they get missed?
Nah, I reckon, like we've spoken about before with the template, it's not going to be everybody under the template. Like, possibly, like we've discussed before, if the template touches your unit, it might be like a certain value.
Like 2d6 on the unit or something.
Yeah, possibly, but I don't know how that's going to work for a small unit.
But then they say whose base lies underneath.
Yeah, they're very specific about it being whoever's underneath the template.
They could just be how it's written, because like you effectively have escaped being hit if I roll a 1 on the strength 10 hit. So like they could just mean that.
It could just put in risks, because there's probably a rule about partials still, maybe, you know, and so they've just summarized it and going risks being hit as a vague put through, because maybe this isn't actually from the rule book. Maybe this is just a formatted image that's still
exactly.
That's still actually still just a summary. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't mind templates. I just, you know, like we've discussed this before, you end up like arguing over scatters and.
Yeah, and I agree. You know, I'd rather it be 2d6 wounds or something per unit hit with the template if you're clipping it. I think it would be a lot less.
Especially they've gone to D3s. You could definitely make it still. You know, you could say a 5-inch blast template is 6 D3 hits. You know, where then you're going to get at least 6 hits. You know, like that type of thing.
Hits.
I know, but
they're so 9th age.
Yeah, I know. They've already opened that can of worms now.
Oh, funny.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
yep, but
All right.
that's
So, yep,
dimensional.
that's-
But you're not
that's
losing
the
your wizard,
cascade.
which is good.
Incredible, right?
I mean,
the wizard
unless he's already
won't
had a
die from
wound.
this. It'll
Nah.
take one wound, and that's it
Yeah.
at most.
Yeah.
Which is like it's blasting the unit, but
Plus,
yeah,
it's also friend or
incredible that
foe. Like, so, like if you're in combat and you
know.
do one of these assailment ones and you go bang, like you at least you might be able to kill.
You're
the
very
enemy as
likely to
well.
be as well. Like
Yeah,
these
yeah.
rules, like it's not just the dispelling that's short range, but I feel like a lot of the spells they've released are all 12-inch or
Yeah, well, I
18-inch
think they even
ranges.
make a mention here
So
something about that.
yeah, I think we get to that where
yeah.
everything's been shortened so that your wizards are going to be at the front line. You know,
Yeah.
otherwise
Yeah.
they're not going to be useful. So yeah, you may well hit horrors. 5 to 6 calamitous detonation. So this is a 3-inch plus template. Similar thing. Otherwise, every model under that template risks being hit, but it's strength 6 now with an AP of -2.
So you must be loving this though as a Brett, because you're like going, I don't care about any of these except for that 2 to 4, because all my guys are 2-up armor saves, AP -2. Who cares? You still get to roll a 4-up save or whatever it is.
Wonder if he
It'd
gets
be-
to
it'd be
pray and
broad-
he gets his
I
5-up
don't know.
ward.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
still thinking in 6th edition terms, right? Yeah, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
5 up, 4 up, 5 up. But no, it might not. It might not be
Yeah,
able
it
to
might
pray
not be,
anymore.
but yes,
Might not be able
yeah.
to pray to the lady. I'm very sad if I can't pray to the lady. I would spend years praying to that lady.
They can't take that away.
The last 10 years of
They'll
my
have,
life.
maybe they'll, yeah, that's a different discussion, but hopefully they'll still have it, but it'll be a little bit different
Surely.
still.
Yeah.
It does add a weird element to the game, not having only going second.
Yeah, I don't like that you don't get to play certain, you don't get the chance. I don't know. That's a different discussion, but we'll see.
Yeah, let's not.
Anyway, cool. But I like these that they're easy to remember though.
Yeah.
Like it's the same effect, just different. I need to do that too,
Well,
Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is with we're going to talk about
I'm
Bretonians,
still on the headset.
Yeah.
is that innate the miscasts was, I think the 7 was like everything in base contact, the wizard takes the strength 10 hit, and that was
Right.
like, or maybe it was 6 or something.
Mm.
It was awful. It was one of the most common miscast outcomes.
Yeah.
And in 8th, you'd often miscast, and the wizard, the damsel miscasting would just explode the unit, and it was a real handicap. I
Yeah,
found.
especially correct.
It was really brutal.
Right in the middle. Yeah.
Right in the middle. So it was 8 in base contact, and they'd all die. And I'd be like, oh, that's the end of that unit.
Yeah,
It was brutal. Anyway, so yeah, number 7, careless conjuration. Mispronounces a syllable, the wizard does. Backfires the spell backfires on him, and he knocks to the ground. He suffers a single strength 4 hit with an AP of -1. Pretty boring, I must say. Although it might take a wound, I guess. But nothing more. I guess at 7 it's supposed to be boring, isn't it? 8 or 9 barely controlled power. So wizard manages to control the magic being expensive of great power. The spell is cast. However, you can't attempt to cast any more spells for the remainder of the current turn. But it's cast at its regular casting value for that one, whereas the 10 to 12 power drain, it's a deafening boom, and the spell is cast with what's called perfect invocation, which is the new name for the total irresistible force. But again, you can't cast any more spells for the remainder of the turn, but that's it.
Yeah, so I mean,
there's no wizards being sucked into the wall. There's no.
But I did some calcs on this. I don't know if I got it wrong or right, but it feels like a chance of rolling 2 1s is 2.8%. Is that right? 1 out of 36.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So, and then if you do miscast, there's only a 41.7% chance of still getting the spell off because you roll 8 or above. So, to me, it's not. I don't know. To me, it doesn't feel risky at all. Magic, which is good because maybe they've gone, well, it's not that. They're not that power. They've lowered the power anyway and the range and all this. So
Yeah, you're right. Because we're all thinking about miscast being because you're getting off 3 or 4 dice, and it's relatively common. When you're rolling 2 dice, you're right. It's going to happen one.
I think someone said
once
on a
every
6
36
dice,
spells.
25% chance, a 25% chance on 6 dice to miscast, where it's a lot less in this.
Yeah.
And you technically have all your spells, and I mean, we don't. Do we know this? But I don't think so. But if you're a level 4, can you just cast all 4 spells every turn? I feel that yes, because all you're doing is,
I think. The way I interpret this.
That's what it is. Yeah. So I feel like you're going to cast more spells, but even if you cast 4 a turn, now I was a bit weird, back in the strategy phase, we weren't sure if you're going to be casting hexes on their turn as well. But assume you're only going to cast spells in your turn. If you're level 4, you get 4. So you got 24 shots at it in a game on a 6-turn or 6-game round, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Will we see a lot of miscasts? I don't even know if we will.
I don't think we will. I mean, we'll see more miscasts from dispelling.
Yes,
now,
well, that's
because
the
we used
thing.
to never see that.
With that, because you're also dispelling, then bang.
I guess the worrying thing is that it's not like there's a risk and benefit of like, oh, okay, I'll use some extra dice and risk a miscast. There's no choice. You just roll 2 dice.
Don't do it or don't. Yeah.
And same with the dispelling. Like it's just like, oh yeah, you just roll 2 dice and see what happens.
Yeah, but you can elect not to do it. Like you can say, well, I'm not going to risk.
Yeah, but the chance of rolling 2 dice, of rolling double ones is so low. I don't think it's necessarily going to inform your decision to do so. Unless it's really unlikely, I guess. Unlikely that you're going to actually get the like you have to roll a 12 or something. Then you might say, oh,
yeah,
probably not going
to
bother.
I guess the other thing similar to this with the miscast and the fact that even if you get it off, you might not be able to cast any more spells because of the order is set. A little bit like the Tomb King magic, not really, but you know what I mean? Like you have to do your hexes and stuff first because that's earlier in the turn. Then you might be going, oh, I really need to get this. I really need to get this combat spell off to win the game, to do something. Am I really going to just throw 2 dice to do this little buff that I don't, or fire a fireball in shooting phase? Because if I miscast and can't cast any spells, then I can't cast that one that I really need. Like because you can't in 8th, you could choose which spell you do first, so you could go, well, I need to get that one off. I'm going to throw the dice at it. Whereas you can't do that now.
Nah, it'd have to be like a really nothing spell. Like you really was going to be 0 benefit to think that way. Like Josh was saying, the chance of getting a miscast is so.
It's so low, it barely figures into your decision making.
And didn't they also say something about there's going to be a lot of ways to adjust your roll? Or maybe that's just power level. Probably doesn't stop miscast though, because natural double one.
Natural double one.
Yeah. Oh well, we'll see. I guess. I guess the more wizards you have on the board, though, the chance that you will see it.
The more you roll, the more likely you are to eventually hit one, and then you might blow up the unit. And then if you actually now another new rule is that if you this is literally how they've worded it. If a player finds themselves unable to attempt a wizardly dispel, they may make 1 fated dispel per turn, unmodified 2d6 attempt. So I guess that means that if you don't have a wizard in range to dispel, you still have that option. And then I guess that is a bit of a strategic thing about when you burn that fated dispel.
Yeah.
For whichever spell, like that's probably the only decision that you've got to make in terms of magic.
True.
Yeah.
Is that particular rule? Because if you've got nothing else in range, then they've got 4 spells to choose. You've got to not only decide which spell you're going to aim for, but also because it's an unmodified 2d6, you've got to have to think about. Okay, you got to wait for them to roll low so you can snipe it off.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't pay attention to that. But do you get to see their roll before you choose? I'm going to dispel it, I guess, because that's what you always used to do.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because that would. Yeah, otherwise you wouldn't know. I assume that's the case. That's always been the case.
Yeah.
This wording in this next sentence, though, is where it goes to offset this. Certain units, notably dwarves, have an innate resistance to magic, making it harder for enemy wizards to cast spells. It's funny, like to offset what? The fated dispel? I think that was meant to be for the bit at the top, was it?
I think maybe they meant that it was because you only have 1 fated dispel per turn, so to offset the limited otherwise ability to dispel.
Otherwise, dwarves would only ever have the 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just worded a little bit poorly,
weird.
I suppose. Yeah.
I like I'm assuming things like, the magic resistance is just going to minus off that. So I think this is going to be cool where you'll have definitely these bubbles like of areas where it's just going to be really hard to get a spell off in that area. I think that'll be cool.
Yeah, for sure. So, because like I think that is the case because in the Handmaids of the Lady profile they've got, the magic resistance is magic resistance -2 in brackets. So for me, that directly says that yes, if you're trying to cast on something, then your casting roll is minus by 2.
Which is pretty big, isn't it?
Like
wiping out a fair bit of your
But if they're saying notably dwarves like when they say certain units have resistance to magic, notably dwarves, does that mean that the vast majority of dwarves are going to have like -1?
It's probably got an army-wide rule,
like an army-wide rule with a baseline of that, which suddenly makes like a lord having +4 or the hero having +2 level 2s maybe not that potent if you've got quite a lot of magic resistance floating around.
Yeah, but does that mean you just tend to then bugger it? I'll just take I'll have to bring a lord. I guess that's the I like.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm assuming. I've got trust in these guys. I don't think they're going to build something where it's just a no-brainer. Everyone has to bring a lord. I think they've
because it's also an area zoning type thing as well, where 2 level 2s, they can more adequately cover the whole battlefield in terms of dispelling and that type of thing. Whereas a lord can dominate a 24-inch zone, but
that's it.
It might be a little bit less versatile. So I don't know. We'll wait.
And if you only got the one lord choice, that's a big investment right there.
Absolutely, yeah. You'll have leadership penalties for not having a fighting lord and that type of thing, which plays into that too. I agree. Where are we?
See if I had any other points on. No, I don't think so. That was about it for that sort of section that I could remember.
I love this. This actual is probably like the best bit out of this entire week.
The damsel call, like seeing the stats and stuff. Yeah,
getting the whole.
I was kicking to that one, and I'm going to get a drink. Hang on, keep going.
Yeah, so the whole thing, base size and everything. Isn't there? So what did it say? So now it's interesting how it has a Lore of the Lady at the bottom in the special rules, because in the text they say that the priestesses of Lady of the Lake can pick from 3 spell laws. Elementalism, illusion, or battle magic. And that's sort of it. So it's like, so what is this special rule at the bottom, Lore of the Lady? What does that mean? What does that mean?
I know I mentioned the law specific or faction specific laws, but I don't know if that is it. But it just when I did see it, I went, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I'll go through the profile of the handmaidens. So the prophetess, I feel like this is unnecessary buffing to the prophetess's combat ability. Weapon skill 4? Come on. 2 attacks. What is going on? 2 weapon skill 4 attacks for any kind of like non-combat oriented caster.
She's big.
Especially a lady on a unicorn or something. Oh yeah, she's large. I must admit,
she's large. She's like Brienne of Tarth.
Yeah, she does.
Looks quite a buff lady.
She'll be strength 4 as well. So she's got 3 wounds. The damsel's weapon skill 3 and 1 attack. They're both on 25 mil bases. Regular infantry. Does it say close order? No, it doesn't say anything like that. No, I guess characters might not have that as a thing. It was just like the dragon, the dragon ogre from last week. So prophetess is based on level 3, damsel level 1 as typical, and then so every handmaid of the lady knows battle magic, elementalism, and illusion, and then the options for the choices may be mounted, which I assume is there is like in the book there'll be like a stables of certain mounts at set points, so you just choose any of them. And then the prophetess may be level 4 for 30 points, magic highest up to a total of 100. This is all very classic Warhammer, level damsel level 2 for 30 points. 50 points magic high. That is classic, never been changed, which is nice to see. And then special rules, Aura of the Lady, Blessings of the Lady, Lore of the Lady, Shield of the Lady, magical attacks and magical resistance -2. Lots of lady special rules there. Hilarious. I'm not sure what a lot of those are. I don't know what Aura of the Lady is Lore of the Lady, or Shield of the Lady. I would have thought Shield of the Lady would be magic resistance, but magic resistance is separate. I don't know what to do make it with the magical
One of them
attacks
was
either.
something to do with staying in the back of the unit, though, wasn't it? Shield of the Lady.
Oh, there is
ability.
Yeah, we get
allows
that,
her to
don't
seek
we?
sanctuary in the back rank, but that's the only one they tell us about, I think.
Yeah, that's right. They've actually mentioned that later. I forgot about that. Yeah, so that.
So one point with this, again, if this is out of the book or not, we're not sure. But if this is going back to your point about level 4s and lords, like there is no lord and hero in this stats. It's just they are what they are.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're going to change that, you know what I mean, and just have characters now.
Yeah.
Like HQ choices, whatever they do in Horus Heresy, you know, like it's just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have absolutely no idea how they're going to do army list construction.
No.
I haven't even
do cover
mentioned
that,
it yet.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Just with that Lore of the Lady, I was just wondering maybe if it's just going to be additional spells, but not a full 7. So you might have access to the Bretonnian book, might have
like
Lore of the Lady,
or
2 or 3 additional spells in addition to. So just say you picked Battle Magic, you'll get all the Battle Magic spells plus 3 Lore of the Lady spells, which will be the.
But I mean, it's
just
got a
a bit
magic
weird
section there, and they're saying you can pick from there. There must be something else.
Yeah.
Or
maybe
that
it
section,
gets
it just
a buff
says,
or something, casting or not casting or dispelling, you know, be something like that maybe.
I mean, that'd be interesting if they did that kind of thing, Andrew. Or even if it was like an alternative signature spell or something like that you could sub in if you wanted. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Because it just says there are 8 in the core rulebook alone.
Yeah.
So it's not to say that there's not others, obviously.
Oh, there is
for
others.
sure.
We know that
obviously
the
there's.
have one,
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if, like, you know, you can pick. You might get access to, you know, as I said, 2 or 3 of these plus, you know, 3, you know, per se specific rulebook ones. I don't know. It's just for things like, you know, vampires and whatnot. Not that they're coming out at the moment, but you might have to have specific rules for Raised Dead, which will only be specific to vampires. It wouldn't be specific to vampires and Tomb King sort of thing, because they might not, you know, the synergy of like a Raised Dead spell might not work across two different books or 2 different armies.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, we won't know, hey? That's the thing. It depends on what that you know, necromancy one is. And what do you think about these options where they've got a Royal Pegasus? Because didn't we talk about that when the Peg came out? Can a damsel ride it? And I don't think there was an option.
Yeah, there wasn't. No.
Like
so
historically, there's not an option.
Historically there hasn't been.
Yeah.
Not in the 6th edition book. I haven't looked at the 5th or earlier, but yeah, there wasn't in the 6th. So the options for the mounting that they specify is a warhorse or a Bretonnian warhorse, which again is a bit weird. A Royal Pegasus or a unicorn. Like you could have there was options for a Bretonnian warhorse, but with or without barding.
All right.
I don't know what this regular warhorse is. Can't have regular warhorse in Bretonnian army. What's going on?
Unless it's something to do with like squires, you know, mounted squires or something like that. I'm not sure.
Bretonnian warhorses are the only ones that can go in lance formation. Who knows?
Possibly.
But does that mean? It's just weird. I guess this came up on the Squarebase podcast or YouTube thing that talking about this was. Are they going to supply that, or are they actually? You know, are we going to see rules that come out? I guess this is the faction chat as well, that don't even have any Games Workshop models, not even historical ones. Because that is weird to do.
Oh, for the Pegasus?
Yeah, like there's no model. I can't walk into a Games Workshop and buy like a prophetess on a
prophetess on a Pegasus.
So I'll go 3D print it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
It's just weird. I don't think they've ever done that. And that wasn't that their main chapter house court thing for Space Marines or something that they lost it because they the other company was producing figures for stuff that Games Workshop didn't make, and they were allowed to do it because they're like, well, people don't have an option. They have to
Well, I
buy
forget-
this other stuff.
What was the go with the Lord or Hero and the Pegasus?
There was 3, but there was not a wizard.
There was not a wizard.
But
on it, yeah.
could you pluck? Well, could you just have the Pegasus
maybe
by
if
itself?
her legs aren't. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah,
trying
not
to.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the model.
I don't know. I almost wonder whether there's some tension, like not tension, but like some pulling and pushing in different directions between the guys that are putting these rules together and the practical corporate side of how many models are we going to be able to release, going through that whole process. And they're like, we want to keep these rules structured and want to be able to just have, maybe mounted and just be able to choose all those options, but without necessarily having all the miniature support in the other side of the company.
Who knows?
Who knows?
I like the option though, because you'll be able to convert stuff as well.
Because I'm sure they would have loved to have a much bigger scope of factions and units and stuff being released, but I'm sure they've been significantly limited in their scope, But I'm sure, but there's certain rules they still want to be able to put out and then hopefully maybe release those miniatures later, maybe, But I think it just dictates how successful and popular the miniatures are that they've made. And I think that will. That might help.
How much more options
how much more investment they put into this whole thing.
Yeah.
So the unicorn, they've got a stat thing too, which is new. So it's got movement 10, weapon skill 4, strength 4, wounds +1, initiative 5, 2 attacks, +1 wounds. A new one, like that's a structure that not been in Warhammer Fantasy before. It's been in other GW games, hasn't it? Like I think
maybe I can't remember.
40k or something might have had that kind of thing. But
it's good. It's good. I'm a bit surprised that toughness isn't on there, given that that's what Monstrous Cavalry
Well, it's probably going to have a combined. I wonder if it's going to be a combined model.
It is for sure. I think when you look at it,
like as in, it
just feels weird that. What did a unicorn usually have toughness-wise, anyway?
I don't think a lot.
I don't think they had a significant toughness, and I think they were largely considered a regular steed. I don't think they were.
Okay, well, that's
they were ever
for some
like.
reason in my head, I'm like, wouldn't it be toughness 4? But yeah,
I just see a lot of people taking them.
I'm looking at that unicorn that came out. Looked pretty big. That's all. But
because what'd you get? You used to only get like magical attacks or something out of a unicorn. Like it wasn't.
Yeah.
And magic res, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't really. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that some of them he might have had like an extra like a lance style +2 strength on the charge or something. Like a bit of a
with
buff.
Its horn,
with the horn.
Yeah.
But I don't think. Did we even get? Oh, I actually thought there was unicorns in the 6th edition book. Yeah, there's not actually a unicorn option.
Oh,
in Britannia.
But I like how they've done it. Like it's obviously combined profile, but then the ability not only just to confer, well, maybe it sort of doesn't really confer strength and stuff. For it to confer like a stat to the rider, it probably has to use this plus or minus. Not that you'd have a minus, but sort of thing, which I think is pretty cool.
And we have a base size, which is so bizarre.
No wonder it doesn't exist, does it?
Because it's troop type monstrous cavalry, base size 40 by 60.
That's big.
Which is large, but wait, what was the base size of the hippogriffs back in 8th edition?
You mean the demigriffs?
Sorry, demigriffs. Yeah.
They're weirder. They're like 50 by 75 or something like that.
Right. So this is a smaller base.
It's a smaller base,
than the demigriffs, but it's still a monstrous cav.
Yeah, so I guess they definitely pulled apart. I guess they always did. I guess the base size and the troop type. But why are we going to such? Yeah, I just would have. Yeah, it's weird. Because 40 by 60 doesn't seem that big, really. If you know what I mean.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't seem big.
And you know what's even weird? I'm pretty sure if you go look at the unicorn, the new unicorn that came out, isn't it on a square base?
I thought it was square, but then maybe it's
But
just
maybe
the
it's
angle.
the-
40
yeah,
to by
could be.
60 is pretty
Yeah.
close to a square-ish. So maybe it was the angle.
Depends on
Because
the
I feel
angle,
like
yeah.
I think I was talking to a guy who was like, I'm pretty sure that's not a square base. I think that might be slightly rectangular. And I think he might be right after all. Because looking at this base
might
size.
be. Yeah.
But yeah, is it? Because the new cav bases, like the feeling is, they're going to go from 25 by 50 to maybe 30 to 60 or something like that. Is that base length designed to fit in the at least the length in a
the length might,
because the width doesn't matter so much. If you're in the back rank, it'll just be a little bit wider.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But the length needs to fit, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it's just it's a bizarre choice. Like I'm sure that's not going to be the baseline for all monstrous cav because it just seems
it seems too
weirdly
small for things like the blood crushers and stuff, and even the demigryphs might be. But yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, just have to wait and see.
There's Armorbane again, which
Armorbane,
Unicorn.
Yeah.
Armorbane 2. And Armorhide 1. Beguiling Aura. Countercharge.
Yeah.
What is countercharge? It's in there.
So it's obviously a rule that a unit has to be able to do it, I guess.
Just be able to do it. And it looks like it might just be relatively commonplace if a unicorn has it, of all things.
Oh, yeah, true. Maybe it's more of a cav option.
Well, it's got Swift Stride in there, so I wonder if that's a countercharge part of maybe Swift Stride units.
Yeah, it might be more common with Swift Stride units. Yeah, it has a Stomp 1. I wonder what Beguiling Aura is. Like, that's just, a strange thing. Maybe like -1 to hit or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then, does she get? Oh, yeah, that's right. So the lady gives magic resistance too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So next up, we got actually the article just talks about the spells she can use. So it actually goes into a few options of the signature spells that the handmaiden would have options for. So there's a battle magic 1, illusion 1, and elementalism because those are the 3 laws they have access to. So I'll just go through these spells one by one. So the battle magic signature is Hammerhand, which is an assailment spell, so that'd be in combat phase. So the range is in combat, so hand to hand. Casting value is 7, and a single enemy unit the caster is engaged in combat with suffers 2d3, 3-4 hits with an AP of -2.
Yep.
I don't know. Do you prefer to roll 2d3s or 1d6?
I guess. I mean, the good thing is you're just not It's good that you're not rolling ones, I guess. But I mean, it's annoying to do the maths. I guess we're gonna have to get better at it. I mean, the maths isn't hard, but
it's arguably more. It's arguably stronger, isn't it, than d6?
Yeah,
because there's no chance of getting a 1.
Yeah, no. Totally.
And you're very likely to get 4 or 5. And I feel like you're rolling 1d6 and you get 4. You're like, oh, that's pretty good. Happy with that.
Yeah.
And I think most of the time we're going to get 4, at least.
Yeah.
If not 5. Yeah. So I think that's quite a good spell if she's in combat.
Yeah.
Well, she can sit in the back, I'm guessing, you know what I mean, and not have to be in combat, but in combat, hopefully.
Yeah. That's true. It just has to be engaged in combat.
But I mean, she's not the only one who needs this, I guess. So yeah, you're right. Some of the other wizards are going to have to. I feel like some of the wizards are going to hang off the end of, if you're bringing a wizard in a unit, you might tend to go wider and then have them hanging out the sides. They're not getting attacked, but they can attack. But yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, indeed. The illusions signature spell is Glittering Robe. Shimmering light radiates from the illusionist's garb, dazzling and confounding the enemy. So this is sorry, I'm going to sneeze, guys.
Oh yeah, it's an enchantment. I'd say casting value 8 and cast on themselves, which is it self? But then
cast on self. Yeah.
It does affect the unit that they're in. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
So until the start of your next start of turn subphase, enemy units suffer -1 modifier to any rolls to hit made against the caster and any unit they've joined. And if a spell's cast, the effects of any other enchantment previously cast on any of the affected models immediately expire.
So you can't stack enchantments.
Enchantments.
Do you think then that like, why would they write that there if all enchantments you can't stack and all hexes? Like, but then they do mention that in the hex down. So I'm, like, are they just being verbose, or
I
is
feel
there
like
only
they
going
are.
to be some signatures that you can't, but maybe some higher ones you can because they're harder to cast? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But for a signature spell, that looks pretty bloody good.
Oh yeah,
I would have thought,
Yeah.
nice one to hit. Yeah,
considering the normal sort of signature spells you get.
it's actually, you know, you have the option to hit on 2s now. Is it 2s? I can't remember. Might be getting confused. There is 2s, isn't there?
Yeah, there is 2s. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. If you more than double the weapon skill, then you're hitting on 2s.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like it'd be moist. I think those -1s, they're very effective when you've actually got a really high weapon skill and someone else is trying to hit you on 4s or even 5s.
Yeah,
then if you stack a -1 on the
basically,
5s to
like,
hit,
6
then
or something.
it just goes to 6s to hit, and it's just really
You're
brutal.
going to lose half your hits. Yeah.
Especially when you got like a cav bus or something hitting you, and it's like that high strength stuff. The elves, things like that. It's
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, the last of the signature spells I've got here for the elementalism is Storm Call. The elementals channels the fury of a storm towards their foes, causing strong winds and icy rains to batter against them. So this is a hex, casting value 7, and just a range of 12 inches. Until the start of your next turn, until your next start of turn subphase. That is a real word jumble.
Yeah.
The target enemy unit suffers a -1 modifier to its movement and initiative characteristics to a minimum of 1. And again, if the spell is cast, the effects of any other hex previously cast on the target unit immediately expire. This one doesn't seem. I mean, it's only 12-inch range. So if you're casting this on something and you're hoping to get a good effect in terms of movement restriction, you know, I feel like you're not going to get much of a chance to use it. And you can see how important the initiative debuff is, though, because in our context now, we just think that's not going to be very useful either. But I feel like initiative is going to be quite important in the game. So you might be casting it more for that debuff.
Yeah.
Than the movement
But like
debuff.
charging, what was it? Like if you're standard 4 inches, was it 75% chance you're still not going to make an 8-inch charge? I think it was, I can't remember what I said the stats were the other week, but it's like most of the time 7's the most reliable like distance. So it's not very far.
Yeah.
Like, so charging is not far, and this is 12. So maybe there's more room to move up close to 12 and then even just like hit them and then even move back a bit, or like, and you know, just basically they struggle to get there because with the -1 again, now their charge ranges, you know, 6
closer
and
to
5,
6.
you know, like in terms of, you know, guaranteed to get in. They can still roll a 6, I guess, but.
Yeah, true.
The other thing here, though, is if you can't stack these things, it looks like you can at least stack. No, it's not really stacking, but you can enchant yourself and hex them. So at least you can still get like buff, debuff happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, I think the initiative, I mean, it gives you the option to cast at the start of your turn and then charge them. And if you were potentially going to be the same initiative on the charge and then you pop them down to charging after you, and there's no step up, which again, we still don't really know, that might swing the whole combat in your favor. You know, that could be really important.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know. They might just be trying to make it so that you can't just pummel units with, you know, too much, you know, debuffing and whatnot. Or buffing, etc. Just to try and, you know, spread the love of Magic out a bit, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, if movement distances are less, like because of, you know, the charging's less, like even just -1, it can be a massive thing. So I like these things. And if, like I said, if initiative plays a bigger part, then this is interesting too.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, the 12-inch range is really small. Like for the spell of this potency, I'm used to this being, you know, 24-inch range kind of thing. You know, so for it to be 12, it's really interesting.
And do you think, how do you think they're going to be measured? Like, I can't remember what 8th would do. Well, actually, what would 8th do with spells with the damsels and stuff sitting in the second row, do you still measure it from the front of the unit?
No, from the
I would have
damsel.
thought from the
Okay,
from
okay,
the
so it's
wizard.
all the same. Okay, so it makes no
Yeah.
difference. But I mean, for things like that, that's even smaller range, for at least for Bretonian players, because if they're sitting in that rear rank, 12
true.
inches gets quite close.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Oh no! Do we lose Josh?
Oh, he's frozen.
They didn't talk about it, and neither did he, because he froze. He might be back.
Sort of in the midst of asking before I cut out, I don't know how far this came through at all. The one thing we didn't really know was, in terms of dispelling, whether you have to be in range of the casting guy or the unit that they're casting at.
That's a good point. I didn't even think of that, but it doesn't say.
Doesn't say.
Oh, what happened there? That was a bit crackly.
Surely I'd say the wizard.
Because at the end they talk about the ranges again, but they don't mention. Oh, that might be yours, Josh. It's like a static cable.
Is your phone near your cable again?
Yes, it is.
There we go.
The old phone.
Cool.
Yeah, because I was trying to use my phone to log in.
Hotspot.
Yeah, no, it doesn't say. Unless I'll just go right back to the dispel bit at the top. But surely I don't know. I reckon it's going to be within the casting wizard, just because you're battling each other, But who knows? Yeah.
I feel like that's more thematic.
Yeah.
But
otherwise,
then-
you could just have this dispel guy just sitting in the back, sort of. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's right. So if your unit had, the weird thing would be like, what happens if like you're a wizard, in somewhere you're by yourself, and then they cast a hex on a unit that you're near, and that unit has magic res. Like, what's the dispel value? Like, do you roll but use the magic res as well from the unit that's getting hit? Like, it's going to be interesting to see how magic res works.
I think it will. It'll minus off the casting value and make it easier for you then to dispel. Is how I'm picturing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which would make sense, I guess, because they're trying to hit this unit and like they need more power to do it. And then you're out there going, it's easier to dispel. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Easier to spell or harder to cast?
Wow, man.
Both.
Both. Okay.
Yeah. I think it will be harder to cast. But yeah, I'm picturing it'll be easier. Like, I think that's a good way of really buffing or limiting the power of certain mages, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, we'll get onto this quickly. We sort of talked a little bit throughout that about the faction stuff, but I guess what I just wanted to talk about was I don't know. I was envisioning, just to go right back, I think what I was thinking was I thought maybe the Old World website store would come up and there's going to be pretty much heaps of 8th edition stuff in there that you can buy. And then the game's out as well. And obviously there's new plastics for Bratz and Tombkins and stuff, but that's it. Like, it's the full, everything's out.
Yeah.
But then I thought, well, if that's true for the core factions, is that true? Number one. And B, if it is true, is it only the core factions that they do that? And then like there's no Lizardmen. Does Lizardmen have a PDF, but there's literally no Lizardmen section in the Old World website? I know this, we don't know the answers to this, so I'm not saying like you guys have any more idea than me, but I guess what do you think day one launch? Because I don't know, or the other option is day one launches and there's a book and there's maybe a box set with the Tomb Kings or whatever and Bretonians, and that's it. And that's the only thing on the website, except for, say, the Bretonian Tomb King plastics. And they're just assuming that if you're playing, dwarves, that you've got an old dwarf army. But if you're coming from Total War and you want to play dwarves, they're like, well, you're going to have to try and buy some of the AOS stuff, or like we haven't released the dwarf army yet.
Yeah, I know.
Like, what do you think?
You know what? That's going to happen. That's going to mean everyone's just going to migrate to third parties, 3D printing, and everything. If they're releasing rules for things for which there are no miniatures available from them, and there won't be miniatures available. Like, if they're talking even just like non-core factions, they're putting out PDFs for stuff, and you won't be able to buy.
Well, the Grail
anything.
Knight. I mean, that's like the Grail Knight's not in the Bretonian launch. Oh, hang on. Was there that one sentence that said there is
was
more
a
to
sentence.
come or something?
Yeah. And I feel like they will have metal miniatures release and stuff, not just
maybe
the new
made
stuff.
to order, or maybe just there.
Maybe it's just there. Like, yeah, I don't know. I have to wait and see a bit. But yeah, I feel like they will try to do their best to have most of the options available to buy.
Yeah.
For most of the core factions. Do you think how much do you think they'll have of the core factions?
And when we talk like Empire, you know how when they pulled the cities of like the Empire, because the cities of Sigma, and they did say, "Don't worry, this stuff's coming back in the old world."
They did.
Yeah.
So I know it's coming back, but the question is say this launches for 15th of February, will those Empire boxes be available? Because we know they're coming. We know Black Orcs are coming back because they've said it. But is it only coming back when they launch the army, which we don't know when that is, or will it be day one? That's what I'm getting.
That's a good question.
I think launching the army. I can't see them sending all this stock out in one big go.
Okay, so you reckon there won't be much in the old world web store initially? There's going to be like 2 armies that have stuff.
Bretonians
and Tomb Kings, and that's it. And right.
And then a few months later, you'll see the next drop, and then a few months later.
You know what? See,
do you think they'll have rules for all the armies in that release? No.
Well, look,
I don't know if they're going to have PDFs for everything else. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it?
What do you mean everything else? Sorry, what do you mean, Andrew?
Like possibly at the start, you might not have a book for the core factions straight up. You might only have. And they might just have a simple PDF until the core book comes out. That'll supersede the PDF.
Yeah.
So like reasonable. Empire will be in the index, but we know it'll get a proper book or something.
Or the index.
Yeah. And
it will be
maybe they don't
care
about this because maybe they know it's such a smaller game, and in the big scheme of things, they're like, well, eventually we'll catch up, but we just deal with it. But it just feels very un-Games Workshop to
it does. It does.
The example that someone gave about this recently, or maybe that was today, because I'll go back to the first one. With the rumor, there was that rumor that the old Saurus are not coming back. So because they're not on the supported list, and they've already redone all the AOS ones.
Yeah.
So,
But
Lisbon will get they're going to get an index. So are they just going to? Are we just going to pillage the AOS line? Is that?
Are you talking about non-core factions now?
Is there a goal for non-core factions to say, well, you're just going to have to use AOS?
I reckon
because we're never going to bring back the plastics at all.
There's lots of options. Yeah, I mean, there's minimal options for some of those non-core factions.
Yeah.
Like Dark Elves.
Yeah.
Which again, worse it is a Sigma, but they're mostly being pulled. And then
they're still, I think, on the web store at the moment.
Some of them are. Yeah, I know. But it's so strange, isn't it? Like, if it doesn't make sense for them to be releasing this game.
Not with it's just this bit's like initially when I just thought naively a bit that they would just. I mean, I even thought at one point they might dual kit some stuff and just go, look, like the dwarf, how the newer dwarf stuff is in Cities of Sigma still. You still can buy the boxes. I feel like, but we know that those ones, like the Iron Drakes and stuff, are in Old World too because we've seen the pictures of them. So it's like, are you going to bring 2 boxes out? Why don't you just have the same box and just say it's AOS and...
I reckon they will. I reckon they're going to have to.
Yeah, I feel like what they've done is, rather than focus on the miniatures, this is like a game where they're focusing on rules. They're actually
that what I'm actually confused about? I can't believe that.
For once in their life, they're actually like, this is the rules. We're putting out these rules for these miniatures that we know you already have. Yeah. So we're not really trying to get your money in a way, like, because they don't have enough support. Like, they were initially going to put out huge faction releases with like Kislev and all that kind of thing, like a whole thing of it, and then it got reeled right back in. They still want to re-release the game, but because their investment is so limited, that means they can only have a few new units come out. But that's almost a self-fulfilling problem there, where because they release all the rules, everyone will get really excited. but then the sales might not be that great because they don't have any of these miniatures available. So then everyone just goes to third party
and they'll be
just
like, "Oh, this
sources
tanked."
it themselves. Like, oh, I love this. This would be great. But then the Games Workshop won't see the success because they haven't actually.
That's what I was a bit worried about.
Provided the miniatures for people to buy them.
Because it killed the game early just because of poor model sales, because of some of these decisions. That's what I wrote in the thing. I'm just like, that's really weird. The only other thing I could think of is they do like show a lot of the stuff that's there, but say, you know how like a lot of the stuff they'll say it's out, you got to put your email address and we'll tell you when it's available. Maybe that can give them an indication. If they do that for a couple of weeks or a month, they can know, okay, we need to make this box, because they're the popular ones. You know, I don't know.
I think the way they're doing it's smart. Like to me personally, without doing a huge investment, the one thing that's gonna really make or break the game is going to be the rule set. If you've got a solid rule set, most people coming back to the old world are going to be former players of, whatever edition. Plus, there is a ample supply of models getting around. I know, they're probably getting a bit older now. And obviously, like you said, you got the 3D option. They're probably looking at, well, all right, people might buy 3D sets here and there, but in the long term, when we do finally get these models out and we finally have enough models, most people are going to be running Games Workshop models. I mean, you got 3D model options that are a hell of a lot cheaper for pretty much most 40k armies and proxies and things like that, but people don't get them for reasons such as you can't take them to competitive gaming or a Games Workshop store, or just there's a bit of stigma in having 3D models sometimes. I feel it's pretty smart. Like I can see what they've done, and for them to, if they're making all these old world models that might not sell as quick, that's them losing money when they could be printing the 40Ks and the Age of Sigmas, which are going to be selling like hotcakes. I just feel like it's just going to be a slow and steady release. And they can still market it off the books getting sold.
Well, they're not done. I guess one thing to go back on my point that is this going to kill, because poor model sales is going to kill the game. But I think they're so much more connected to the community that they'll know it's popular because they'll see it bloody being played.
Yeah, and hopefully, if the models they do release, the few models they do release, sell well, that will then entice them to go, okay, it's going to be in our interest to continue to now re-release new factions and like just but new factions, but re-release the old stuff in in a more complete way.
But going back to like the Lisbon thing, and I made a comment about the Skaven thing, because I think that the rumor is 4th edition AOS it will be a Skaven, maybe Stormcast or something. I don't know, box set, because that they're still using all the old stuff. I feel like if those Skaven, if those index lists are good, even though when they're not in the core factions, and this game goes good, I can see AOS models just getting pillaged for people to buy this game.
Oh, they'd be silly.
I guess then
not
they
to
make money
those,
as well. They go, okay, cool. Well, we're making money, so it doesn't matter.
They'd have to. There's got to be some crossover. They'd be silly not to, just rename it to something. Oh, it's not Storm Fiends. It's whatever they want to call it. But yeah, you'd be silly not to say. I know they've said it that they're not going to have a crossover of models, but I mean that's just.
Yeah, I think it depends how you read that, hey, because it could be more like, hey, we're not going to bring Stormcast into this, or we're not going to bring, some weird ass AOS, like the Sea Elf things or whatever, they're not coming in or whatever. Like, But the ones that were crossed over, I'm just like,
it'd have to,
But
like the Saurus, like the new Saurus.
Yeah, I mean, why would you ever build on the old ones? The new ones look. I mean, they're expensive, but they look awesome. And if they've increased the base sizes, you got more chance of putting it all on there.
If they were like 32s or something.
So
they might just fit.
Maybe there's some method to the madness.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me. The thing is, I guess the two things that make me think about that it doesn't matter if, like, AOS, they went through crazy time where they nearly tanked the company, and 7th edition 40k sucked or whatever, and like, you know, they had to fix it. So I feel like they're probably like, this is going to be a blip. Like if this comes out and it goes good, but we haven't got all the models yet, it's going to suck a bit. But I think everyone will hang by us and we'll get there. And I guess Horus Heresy's been doing that for ages, hey, because they didn't have half the models, and you had to, if you did, you had to buy them from Forge World, and they cost a heap. So everyone was like modeling 40k stuff. And they've just gone, well, that's the same clientele that we're selling to. We're not selling to little Jimmy who comes into Games Workshop. We're not putting Old World in front of that little kid, because they're just like,
he wants his Space Marine or his Sig Marine.
Yeah. So I guess that's cool, but it's going to be it's going to be interesting to see, because I am totally confused as to what is going to be their day one launch. You know, like it's just weird.
I don't know. I don't know. It will be weird if it's just Tomb Kings and Bretonians and that's it.
And,
I don't know.
Yeah, well, and this is what that's what Val said, or one of them today, was Blood Bowl did that. When they re-released Blood Bowl, they only had the 2 plastic, like Empire, was it humans and orcs in the Blood Bowl,
right?
The re-released one, and they didn't have any of the other ones. They eventually started bringing new ones out, or doing the mail, what's it called, made to order for the old metal ones. But you couldn't go to the Blood Bowl site and buy any team. They just had the 2 that came in the box.
Just have the 2. Yeah,
so
right.
Imagine the sales, but Tomb Kings and Bretonians. It's like the 2 most expensive factions that you could possibly buy secondhand.
Yeah.
I dare say there's going to be some empty shelves if they're the 2.
I think whatever they put out, they're gonna it's gonna sell out. And like I said, I reckon they'll sell out a lot of AOS stuff as well, because it's just gonna go. So anything remotely like proxyable will get bought, especially once people know the base sizes, because they'll go, oh, okay, so they are 32s. Okay, well, I will buy these, like the Slaves to Darkness AOS box set. Like, if that fits on a square bases, that's going to go, because they're knights and foot troops and stuff. You just don't.
Just almost kind of fit on 25. So I feel
like
32.
Have you done that? Have you? I haven't.
I looked into it.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
You talking about the Warriors, the Chaos Warriors?
Yeah, the Warriors.
Slaves to Darkness. I've seen people be able to rank it up on 25s.
Yeah,
you've got to like label each one because they're just like really squished on there. So on 32s, they probably would be quite roomy, quite generous.
Yeah. You wouldn't want to put them on a small 25 because they're so dynamic, those guys. Like they need their space.
So I don't know. I mean, that I don't know if you guys had any other thoughts on it, but that's sort of what I wanted to. Not warning or anything, not warning bells or anything, but I was a little bit concerned when I hear things like, you know, the old Saurus aren't coming out. Like even future, like what does that mean? Like say we're all operating under the assumption that there's 9 factions. If this goes well, the others are going to come.
Yeah.
But if they're not bringing out the old Saurus kits, and if let's just assume that's true, right? They're not bringing out the old Lizardman stuff. When they do get around to doing Lizardman, is that when they dual kit AOS, or like, I don't know, or do they just bring out old Lizardman again? I mean, we have no idea, I guess, but
they probably don't have an idea. I don't know. I think it all just depends on how successful the whole thing is as to how far they go with support.
Yeah. You know? You're talking like what, years and years away before you see those other non-supported factions getting released if they do.
Yeah, and I think
I'm going to like that.
Their long-term plan, I think, will be trying to really supersede the old kits anyway, you would think.
Yeah.
Because they've got to sell a lot more of the new stuff, even if it's specifically for the old world. I think, you know, if we talk about years, and if it's successful, then they will be wanting to, get out the new kits, like the Foot Knights and the Bretonia, that type of thing. Just say stuff that no one has, because that way, you know, you really want to buy it, you know. And I feel like if they're pushing the scale up a little bit, which it looks like they are with the Foot Knights compared to the size of the old, you know, Men at Arms and that type of thing, that's probably going to be how they approach just just marginalizing the old stuff anyway. And I think that might, that might be one way they're approaching it.
You're right. I mean, look, I think 100% right. I reckon, because if you said what's their goal in 15 years, if everything was successful, they'd have n number of game systems, all with their own miniatures, all selling well.
Yeah,
and Heresy's the same. Like it looks like they just keep releasing Space Marines, but in reality, they're bringing out Mach 3 Space Marines and Mach 6 Assault ones because they're all Heresy ones. You don't use them in 40k, and now 40k has totally different Space Marines because they're all those Primaris ones. So you like with what I've been. I mean, I don't know anything about this, but as I'm buying Heresy, I'm not buying any 40k stuff. So they'll want that with Old World, won't they? At one point, like you buy the Old World Skaven, for example, down the track, and there might be Skaven in AOS, but they don't have to cross over because now they can sell to two different people, and if you choose to cross over, there's modeling options. You can just fiddle around with it, but it's not the goal. Yeah, so I get it. It's just seems very weird that they're basically either acknowledging new people aren't going to come on this game and it's all old people, or if you do, you have to get miniatures somewhere else for a bit. Sorry.
Which is so bizarre.
Yeah,
but I get why they might be limited in their ability to support that. Yeah,
imagine the commitment of trying to, get all these races and all these kits, and it's just
isn't that why it died originally? That's why they killed it. That's why they killed the world, isn't it? Because they had to support this massive range of fantasy models that just weren't selling well, and it just wasn't profitable to having all this stock for such a diverse range,
I mean, yes, I think you're right. I just think if we had Warhammer community team that are doing what they're doing now back then, Warhammer Fantasy wouldn't have died. It would always be lower than what Thingy was, but
for sure. They weren't doing any community. They weren't doing campaign, like apart from the end of the world, but they weren't putting out interesting
sold really
supplements
well.
Or
they went. That's
so ridiculous. It just shows that there was potential sitting there, wasn't there?
Oh, 100%. They just didn't do crap.
They just didn't do anything. They didn't do supplementary lists like the Storm of Chaos lists is the prime example of really successful supplements. They could really enhance the game in a really themey way. I mean, sure, they're a little bit more powerful, I think, than the regular lists, but not in a way that destroyed the dynamic of the edition. And they're just so unique and themey, and they've got the whole campaign, the Storm of Chaos behind it as well.
I think
there are just so many interesting modeling opportunities and things you can do, and it just
I think that just adds variability. It allows you to sell more, like they can bring out different stuff and sell it. I think people like those campaign things and stuff. Tournament organizers will comp stuff if it has to. Like I think the thing that shits people off is the broken rules or the non FAQ. Like how does this play? That sort of stuff. But if Games Workshop just rule on that, which they do a much better job now doing, the TOs have got no issue going, okay, well, that's cool. That thing's still OP, so I'm going to do something with it, like comp it until it gets changed down the track, with a point value or something. But it's the ignorance that pisses people off. They're just talk to us.
That's what they need.
The feeling with six with such various huge variety of lists compared to 8th, it almost feels like it makes it harder for the meta to settle a little bit as well.
True.
When you've only got 12 other lists, army lists, that certain things that are really good that there aren't any counters for in that limited select pool of lists can really start to dominate. But if you've got 25, 30 different lists, you got to have more variability that might prevent certain strong things from actually really dominating the meta, or at least it takes a longer for it to become apparent.
And I think that's what you've seen in now. I don't think Heresy does it too much, but with obviously iOS and 40k where you've got those detachments or formations. I mean, even just in one list, army list, you're able without doing a themed list as such, but it's
sort of was a theme list, isn't it?
It is a theme. You're skewing it down a certain
turning it into a theme list.
And so I think that, yeah, you're right. Like, I think that totally works to keep adjusting the meta, because it's always just the arms race then. Like, this one gets better, so now it makes another faction's detachment get better to combat it, and then it just moves around.
Yeah.
And it helps people buy everything in the whole bloody army. Whereas,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, if you're
you
adjusting
go,
power levels
I've only
around,
got Savage Orcs, because why would I ever buy Orc Boys?
Yeah.
That type
Yeah.
of thing, you know.
Well, that's it. And it's just also the fluff. That's one good thing with Age of Sigmar. It's like it's this breathing, evolving, changing world. So the new General's Handbook comes out. It's got all these new, you know, the points obviously change. The objectives change, and they make, you know, wizards more powerful, or they make melee more powerful, you know, and then obviously that changes, like you're saying, people's armies up as well. So people are like, oh, the meta's changed now. Oh, I've got to go buy this. Oh, I've got to go buy that to, you know, keep up the Joneses. But the fluff is great. That's one thing that Age of Sigmar does well. Like, you read through a General's Handbook and you're like, it's got maps. It's got, oh yeah, you know, like, who doesn't love a good map? It's like, oh, we're going here, and it gives you reasons why you got these objectives.
Yeah, I think they're definitely starting to. I mean, I haven't looked at any of the fluff. I couldn't even get through my what's it called? What's the squig one? What are they called? The goblins and the squigs. What army is that? The Git.
Oh, yeah.
Loon Spite Gits, what are they called? I don't know.
I
couldn't get through the whole book because I just don't understand the whole thing. That's different. But I will say it seems to be getting more clarity around it. Whereas I think that was the problem in the early days. It was like, what the hell is all this? But yeah. And the Stormcast, even they got an interesting little spin on them. So like, it's interesting. I just need to open my AOS box and paint some stuff at some point so we can do that.
Yeah.
The pace of the meta is also really important. Like back when I was playing Age of Sigmar, they were just putting out too much, and things were, you know, the new stuff was really powerful, and it just made you feel like, oh, I spent all this time working on this army, and now it's like
redundant.
Feels like it's redundant. It's not that competitive, and it just it was very deflating, and really kind of turned off.
Well, that's what I was gonna say before. I'm pretty sure we will have a slower release cycle, like Heresy, where it might be 4 years or 5 years for the core book changes.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a bit healthier.
That is good, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like the General's Handbook, like they had whatever it was, they had like 2 seasons within the year, or I think it was
they halved it, didn't they? Like they basically
it
up.
It was getting out of control. It was like, you sort of every 6 months or year or whatever, you had to buy this new General's Handbook that had a bunch of new rules and a bunch of new like a campaign sort of thing. It's just,
and you don't mind if
too
it's
much
pay
change
to play in a way, but not if it's like within a 6 to 3 month thing. When people don't have the money to not only pay for the expensive models, but then, like you said, Josh, paint them up. And by the time you got them there, the meta's changed. It's like, oh, bugger this.
Yeah. Especially like, you know, it's an aging older community who are grumbly and don't like change. So
And it's not even about chasing the meta. It's more about just being able to play and enjoy the games without just being taken off the board because some new unit's really powerful and you just got no chance to be even competitive. Like that's what you don't want to see.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Oh, well, we did talk about factions. Again, I didn't have any specifics. Just was wanting to hear your thoughts.
No, this is all entirely theoretical and full of conjecture.
You might get some more answers. I mean, I'd love to get some answers, at least an army composition, but I don't know if that'll drag into sort of what models might be available or not. Like, guess we'll find out. But,
so they're doing Universal Special Rules next week. Is there any what other topics might there be? I feel like they might keep doing this till Christmas or something.
Yeah.
I reckon they've got a couple more of these in them.
There might be. They might do some ones around scenarios too or something. Or
or maybe characters. Like I'd like to find a bit more of like the BSB does. And
didn't
Champion
the Legion? The Epic, whatever the new one is? Didn't they talk about army composition in one of their ones, like how they build them up? Because I'd love to see that, but I don't know if it's too boring for it as well. But I think most people would want to know You know, is
Yeah.
it heroes? Is it is it percentage? Is it slots? Like that type of thing? Is there monsters? You know, how's it all work? But,
I'm sure they could give you anything like that, and I'd be happy.
Mm.
I like the pace that's coming out. Like, it's not awesome, but obviously, you know, it's enough to keep you going. And every sort of Tuesday morning, I get up and I'm like, oh, let's go have a look. You know, like it's
Little,
only thing I would have
little
liked-
Christmas present every Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if we've got enough weeks or probably not, but it'd be cool. I was wondering if eventually they'd just turn it into like a faction per week as well and have a description about what makes them special in the old world and a bit of history, you know, going into it. But
yeah, that'd be cool.
You know, they might be running out of time for that. So
yeah, because to cover 8 factions, that might be hard to do that on a weekly basis unless they change the
cadence.
frequency.
They probably will. Getting closer to the release, they might be pumping it out a bit more. Who knows?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind the thing on terrain rules.
Yeah,
I think that's something they could do.
Yeah,
that would be good.
Cool. Anyway, should we wrap this one up for another week, guys?
Retire for the night? Yes.
I think so. Chatted for long enough, I guess. Not ridiculous.
No, it's pretty good.
I feel like this is an appropriate length for people to listen, but not get sick of our voices.
and
no indigestion.
Next week will be interesting because I know they're going to obviously, hopefully, answer some of the like Armor Bane and one of the ones we've been questioning. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's
imagine if they answered Armor Banes.
That come out.
I really feel like it's Christmas if I got an answer for Armor Bane. It's buggy.
They're clearly listening too, I reckon. GW. So yeah, Armor Bane guys, get that out.
What it is.
We want to know.
Awesome. Anyway, guys, I might wrap this one up if you've got nothing else. But yeah, thanks, listeners, for listening to another one of our Old World Fanatics podcasts. And we're going to be here every week, so just keep leaving us your 5-star reviews on your podcast software of choice so we can, spread the word, I guess, get more listeners in. We always like that. And yeah, just keep hitting up on socials. We're always getting discussions during the week. So just search Old World Fanatics on whatever you're on, and I'm sure you'll find Facebook, one of us on there, Instagram, and we'll have a chat about what's coming up and stuff like that. So yeah, thanks Josh and Andrew. Thanks for another episode, and I guess we'll see you next week.
Yep.
All day.
See you guys.
Ciao, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Makes me just wish I was playing Warhammer right now.